something that's on an iPad. But is it your own iPad?
Yes.
Okay, then that might not work. There might be something with this. Let me ask him first.
Okay.
Let me just spot him.
I'll be sitting like second row right on the one that.
Okay.
Thank you. What was your name again?
I'm Kurt.
Ron Colombo.
Who's outside? Actually, do you know Ken? Do you have a pointer? Yeah, that's the clicker, but I thought we had a pointer. So people at home, because if you use one of them red laser ones, the home people can't see.
You have to do it.
I thought we might have purchased something, so that's what I was going to ask Mark. Two Girl Scouts.
Great. I'm going to invite the Scouts up right now. We're just about to start. Would all of the Scouts that would be in a position tonight to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance please come forward? As the Scouts will come forward, I officially call the meeting to order. And welcome to our July 31st, 2014 Gilbert Town Council meeting. I feel a lot of great energy in the room. In some cases that may be that some in the room have started school or about to next week. This is our only Town Council meeting for the month of July, our first and last one, and then we get back to regular schedule. And so to council members, good to see you again. And it's good to see the team, and the town team has been working hard, and so we will proceed. We will begin, Vice Mayor Cook, if you could introduce the scout that will lead us in the pledge, and after you do that, then you can invite the group here to stand, please.
Well, that's wonderful. Tonight we'll have Braden will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we can all stand.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are very fortunate to have some wonderful Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and what we're going to ask is that they introduce themselves to us and what troop they belong to.
I'm Braden Dew from Troop 284.
I'm Brock Dew from Troop 82.
I'm Lauren from 1914.
I'm Christina from 991.
Well, how nice is that? Can we all just thank these folks with a round of applause? And for their kindness, we have a gift here, which is a copy of the United States Constitution. Mayor?
Thank you. We will continue. The invocation tonight will be offered by Pastor Shirley Elliott of the Victory Tabernacle Pentecostal Church, as listed on the agenda The invocation may be offered by a person of any religion, faith, belief, or non-belief, as well as council members. A list of volunteers is maintained by the town clerk, and interested persons should contact the clerk for further information. Pastor Elliott, if you can come up to the podium right here, please. And right on the other side of the mic, and Dana, if you can give some help there. Thank you.
If I may say just a few words before I pray, I would like to say that I do appreciate this special recognition and honor to my husband, Pastor Elliott. He enjoyed so much coming to the meetings, and we appreciate all of the family that is here tonight. I have several of my family, my children, my grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and several members of Victory Tabernacle. I count it a privilege to be here tonight.
Thank you.
Great Father of Heaven, I love you tonight, and I thank you for everything. We know that you are the giver of life. I thank you for this privilege tonight of praying at this wonderful meeting. I thank you, Lord, for the wonderful blessings upon our town from time to time. And I ask you in this meeting tonight, Lord, that you would lead, guide, and direct in every decision that is made for your honor and your glory. We know the steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord, and without your direction, we are nothing. So I ask your blessings in this meeting tonight, and we'll give you praise and honor and glory in the wonderful name of the Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And Pastor Elliott, Dana, why don't we just have Pastor Elliott stay right there, because she's going to be back up in just a moment. So show her where that nice, comfortable chair is, and we will continue the meeting with our town clerk conducting the roll call.
Mayor Lewis,
Here.
Councilmember Cooper,
Here.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here.
Councilmember Taylor,
Here.
Councilmember Ray,
Here.
Councilmember Peterson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cook.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson, agenda item number 1, please, the pillar of the month.
As council members and town staff, we are committed to listening and being open-minded. We promise to act in a manner that does not place blame or take advantage. We take pride in being fair.
Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. As Pastor Elliott described, we have had, at many of our council meetings, Pastor Elliott here to offer an invocation. And 42 years of service in Gilbert, and he continues the service, but somewhere else, as he passed away, and I had a chance to attend his funeral in June, a very special meeting. We are going to invite wife Shirley Elliott, Pastor Elliott, and all members of the family and congregation to come and stand right to my right. And we have a special proclamation that we're going to tell our community about. Please. This is a good-looking group. I'm going to read part of a proclamation that will explain why this group is here. And then we're going to take a picture together. Whereas the members of the Gilbert Town Council were deeply saddened to learn of the death of Pastor Elsie Elliott and wish to express gratitude and respect for the late pastor. And whereas the passing of Pastor Elliott, a valued community leader, has caused a deep void of sadness in the community. And whereas after a rich and full life serving his God, country, church, and community, Pastor Elliott passed away on June 10th, 2014. And whereas pastoring Victory Tabernacle for 42 years in Gilbert, Pastor Elliott demonstrated great faith and a commitment to his church. He exemplified love for his family, church members, friends, community, country, and whereas Pastor Elliott was a great husband, father, and provider for his family, including wife Shirley, 2 children, Darren and Twyla, as well as being a loving grandfather to his 13 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren, and whereas Pastor Elliott joined the U.S. Army in 1952 and served honorably in the Korean War, and whereas we are thankful for Pastor Elliott's presence in our community, and it is fitting that we set apart a special observance and recognition thereof. And as this proclamation ends, it says, by proclamation from the mayor in the town of Gilbert, we do hereby proclaim July 31st, 2014 as Pastor Elsie Elliott Day, and congratulate Pastor Shirley and family members for your continued service, and thank you on behalf of the town. And I'll get close to you and we'll say we'll do a nice picture. And if you could join me in a big round of applause. Thank you.
Mayor, for agenda item 3, we'd like to invite Jean McNickey and LaDon Dew up to the front, please. Hello, ladies. Right here is perfect. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about why we're here tonight. And we'll actually start with Jean, if that's all right.
Sure. Hi, I'm Jean Spurkey with Gilbert Fire. I got married, so that's okay. That's okay, no worries. We're actually here because August is Drowning Impact Awareness Month, and I'm actually going to let LaDon speak because it's with Phoenix Children's Hospital, so I'm going to let her talk about it a little bit, and then I'll chime in.
Hi, my name is LaDonna Dew, and I work for Phoenix Children's Hospital Water Safety Program, the Water Watchers. Last week, I tied 1,596 ribbons on Palo Verde trees outside the hospital. That is just the amount of kids that have drowned in the Valley of the Sun since 2000. That is more than my daughter's graduating class this year. This year so far, you've had 5 incidents for children in the town of Gilbert. Non-fatal, but they're still drownings. And 10% of all drownings come with permanent impairment. And so we're saying in August is Drowning Impact Awareness Month. And as you wear your ribbons that are in the back, there's ribbons for everybody and for the town of Gilbert, that you're going to make a commitment to watch your kids around water, to make sure the pool gate is locked. The children can't go over, under, or through, because I don't want to tie one more ribbon on a tree next year.
Jean, did you? Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to read this proclamation here so that the audience will have a feel for what we're talking about here. Whereas Drowning Impact Awareness Month will raise awareness that the number and impact of child drownings in Arizona affects everyone, and whereas the drowning incidents in Arizona take the lives of the equivalent of a classroom of children each year, and whereas a child drowning can happen to any family regardless of education, race, or socioeconomic background, and whereas families can take simple steps to protect their children around water to avoid the tragedy of the unnecessary loss of life, and whereas water safety remains a priority for Arizona families, communities, and government, and water watchers at Phoenix Children's Hospital, and whereas keeping children healthy and safe is the goal of water watchers at Phoenix Children's Hospital, fire departments and other prevention institutions in Arizona raising awareness will increase understanding and education of effective ways to prevent drownings. Now, therefore, I, John W. Lewis, Mayor of Gilbert, do hereby proclaim the month of August as Drowning Impact Awareness Month. So thank you. And as was mentioned, in the back of the room, there are some cards with some tips as well as some ribbons. And there's also some information about websites that you can visit to learn more. So now we will take that picture.
Thank you. Gene, while you were up here, we do occasionally slip in current events from the mayor, and there was something that happened this week, and we wanted to thank you, but to tell the community, what was going on this week that kept you very busy?
Thank you, Mayor. I thought I was going to get away. We actually we actually got out into the community over 400 backpacks for kids in need. So in elementary schools, junior highs, and high schools, they're all going out this week and next week to schools that have actually contacted us. And we did a big stuffing, and they are just going out. So we're really fortunate that the community has stepped up. Central Christian was a big donator, too, for us. So we're just really, really thankful that we were able to help the kids in the need to actually start the school year off right this year.
If you could join me in thanking all those involved with the Drowning Awareness Month and our fire and rescue and local community volunteers for the helping get us ready for back to school. Big round of applause. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Anita Wolf to join me up here. Anita, thank you for being here tonight. I'd like you to introduce yourself and who you're with, and I'd like to follow with this proclamation.
Good evening. My name's Anita Wolf, and I'm with the Department of Economic Security, Division of Child Support Services, and I'm a regional manager for one of the offices in Maricopa County.
Well, we're glad that you're here tonight. We have a wonderful proclamation here. I'm just going to read a few of the items here, share this with you. Whereas the safety and well-being of children is paramount, and families need financial means and stability to protect and assist their children, and whereas providing resources to aid parents in succeeding can make a difference in helping to promote long-term security and enriching a child's life will make our children stronger. And whereas recognizing that education plays a critical role in improving Arizona's opportunities for growth and prosperity for parents as well as children, and ensures children are well equipped for school and achieve academic success and levels. And for many other reasons, Mayor Lewis has proclaimed August of 2014 this month as Child Support Awareness Month. Could you please join me in recognizing this very important month?
Thank you, City of Gilbert City Council. On behalf of the Department of Economic Security and the Division of Child Support Services, I'm honored to receive this proclamation. We greatly appreciate and acknowledge that we have your support as we work to provide support services to Arizona's children. Currently, we have more than 186,000 cases of children that need our services. Approximately 61% of those cases reside within Maricopa County. Even though we continue to have the challenging economic hardships, this state fiscal year, which just ended June 30th, of those cases here in Maricopa, we were able to collect more than $356 million for the families we're serving. But our work is never done, and there are always still many children who need our continued services, and we cannot do it alone. It takes everyone in this room, your community, and the people in the capacities across the state to help us. So your proclamation means a lot to us. I thank you for your continued support as we work to help Arizona's kids.
Thank you, Anita. One more round of applause for her.
I want to invite up Kim and your group to come up here. Kim's going to tell us a little bit more about this, the award that's been given, but our Community Assistance Volunteer Program won the National Association of Volunteer Programs and Local Governments Innovative Program Award. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim for just a minute to talk about the program, what happened, and then also introduce some of the team members who are up here with us.
Thank you, Councilmember Ray. The Innovative Program Award honors the outstanding achievements of a local government program in their creation and implementation of a program or service which utilizes volunteers to creatively serve both their local government and their community. This year, the National Association of Volunteer Programs in Local Government honored Gilbert Fire and Rescue's Community Assistance Program. The Community Assistance Program was established by the Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department. This team of credentialed volunteers participates in an extensive 65-hour training program which prepares them to respond and work in partnership with on-scene fire department units. The volunteers that stand before you in this program are dispatched through 911 with auto response in coordination with fire and police apparatus to working structure fires, drowning calls, major medical calls including vehicle rollovers, violent accidents, mass casualties, and cardiac arrests. This program is a real-time dispatch which leads to a timely response for volunteers to provide a wide range of services for the community, such as through the incident management system being assigned to the occupant service sector on an emergency scene. One of the important assignments they receive under this sector is securing housing and assisting families displaced from their homes due to a residential fire or other emergency. They are also assigned to provide rehab support, which aids in the process of providing rehydration and nourishment to all first responders and volunteers involved in incident scene operations. They also reduce casualties from household fires through installation of smoke detectors and batteries for residents. They support stranded motorists as volunteers in this program excel in providing exceptional customer service when an individual is stranded roadside. These volunteers will change a customer's flat tire or provide a vehicle battery jump start. They provide transportation for families and friends to accompany their loved ones at a hospital. They administer basic emergency medical services as needed. This team that stands before you is CPR certified. When they have been first on scene, it's been their efforts of administering CPR during those first few critical moments that have aided in saving a life. In addition, they are emergency medical technicians or first aid certified and have been able to assist first responders administering aid during large emergency medical scenes. This team also provides emotional support to customers in crisis. Their training and compassion for others makes a difference in the customer or patient's life, as these volunteers can de-escalate high emotions. In addition to their daily shifts and operations of this program, these volunteers remain available for response 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to assist the department and community when resources are strained due to a natural or man-made disaster. The time, energy, and expertise these volunteers share with the department and community increases the availability of the department, fire crews, and first responders to be in service for the next emergency call. One of the reasons Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department is best in class is because of the Community Assistance Program and the exceptional customer service this team of volunteers provides internal and external customers. Their selfless acts are what make Gilbert Fire and Rescue great, and the exceptional work they do a service to our community. Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. We're going to have Kim introduce them real quick before we take a picture.
Sure. Thank you. Actually, I'm going to let them do it because they can do it best.
Catherine Keller.
Holton Latsko.
Diane Nielsen. Judy Slack.
Tom Dieterle.
Kelsey Knox. Terry Gray.
Jeremy Barini.
Diana Erickson.
Marino Scarbus.
And Mayor Lewis. So recently, Gilbert was ranked the second safest city in America, and it's groups like this that make it possible. So let's give them one more round of applause for all that they do. Thank you so much, each of you, for all that you do for the town. We appreciate it.
We have another great group in the town that we wish to recognize. We're going to watch a quick video to do an introduction of them, and then I'll ask each member of our Gilbert Feeding Families Committee to come forward.
The United Food Bank donations are rolling in, thanks to the Gilbert Feeding Families Food Drive. A month full of events and activities paid off for the less fortunate families in Gilbert. It started with a bag-off competition to kick off a summer of giving.
Having drives like this in the summertime really helps. You know, we get a lot of food in the winter, but the summertime is when we really need it.
The Campbell Country crew from local radio station KMLE tied their team into the food drive, sticking to their goal with a flagpole fundraiser. Throughout the month, the community measured up, donating thousands of cans and cash.
This is the vibrancy of a community. This is where a community comes together, and those that have had great vision that each year you've helped us extend and move forward.
With a goal to go with the size of the community, 72,600 meals for its 72.6 miles, this year's food drive went above and beyond, raising more than half the number of meals the United Food Bank provides to Gilbert during an entire year.
1,114.
This is Gilbert Digital.
All right, let's bring that awesome committee right up here. I saw a few of them. Kim's here, Jennifer, Ian, our fearless leader. You know, one of the things as they're coming up that I'd like to tell you is that Gilbert Feeding Families Food Drive started 4 years ago, just 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, we raised just over 1,000 meals. And here we are 4 years later with 114,586 meals. That is an incredible accomplishment. Ian, come on over here. Make you go first. We'll pass the mic down here and let everybody introduce themselves.
Ian Millar.
Hi, I'm Kurt Sharp.
Fredo Moreno.
Kim Couturier.
Renee G.
Jessica Bautista.
Annette Collins.
Melissa Forrester.
Jenny Hildebrand.
Jennifer Alvarez.
Mary Jo Kuzmic and some of our great sponsors here.
Ramon Reese, MidFirst Bank.
Rob Padilla with Hunter Contracting. Chris Ellis, Post 39, American Legion.
We are just so pleased and grateful for each member of both the community that helped. I would like to read off the sponsors: Central Christian Community Church, Hunter Contracting, who's here tonight, MidFirst Bank, KMLE Country 107.9, who also, you saw, did that fun way to earn the key to the city. Dick's Sporting Goods, Zero Res, the American Legion Post 39, Santan Village, St. Xavier University, Oakland Construction, Motorola Solutions, Pinto Creek, and Albertsons. Also, there was a nursery school competition this year, and Phoenix Children's Academy was able to win milk and cookies with the mayor, which we thought was a pretty fun thing. Ian, do you want to add anything? Ian's been the fearless leader of this group. The goal was 72,600 meals to cover the 72.6 square miles of Gilbert. And as you can see, with over 114,000 meals, what this group of incredible people has been able to do for those in need in our community. Ian, you want to?
I just wanted to thank the committee. They've been amazing. Every time we had something come up, they worked through it and figured out ways to do it even better. And at this point after the years of doing the food drive, I'm now passing the torch on to Kim Couturier, and she is going to be the new chair, and she will do amazing. And so I'm just happy to be a part of such a great team, such a great group of people, and also thankful that the town is willing to allow us to participate in something like this to be a better community.
Thanks, Ian. And I just wanted to let you guys know that you have been nominated for a Gilbert Community of Excellence Award for all of your efforts. So we'll find out in November. November 14th is the night that we'll be able to to see, but I have the utmost confidence in this group. You really are a tremendous group of people, so thank you very much.
Agenda item number 7. Jeff Williams, if you could come forward, and representatives from the Mission Community Church and Central Christian Community Church, please come forward. Jeff, you can get on this side. This community loves to celebrate freedom, and I'm about to present 2 certificates of appreciation to 2 groups that helped us with our patriotism right around July 4th. To my left is Jeff Williams. He was the official producer-director of our Community Patriotic Music Program, and together we are about to present to Mission Community Church a certificate of appreciation for being the host the Sunday night before July 4th. This has now become a tradition. And why don't we, Jeff, if you want to make any comments, great, and then we'll introduce our representative and then hand this to him. Anything you wanted to say in appreciation?
Well, Mission Community Church has been wonderful the last 2 years in hosting the celebration, and it's just a wonderful event, and we encourage everyone to come and join with us.
It's just an honor and a privilege to be able to serve our community in this way, so we enjoy hosting.
And to my right, the fire in the sky, July 4th, fireworks. How could we have a celebration without the great support of Central Christian Community Church? So if the 2 of you could introduce yourselves, and if there are any comments you wanted to make, but thank you. And I'll hand you this in just a moment.
Jason Person.
I'm Scott Jones, and Jason and I are honored to be here tonight. We're sorry we didn't get milk and cookies with the mayor, but this is good. And we just feel privileged to be a part of a team and an event where we had over 10,000 people on our campus and even more in the surrounding sites to bless our community, to celebrate our freedom, and to provide food for those who are in need of food. And this kind of a thing doesn't happen without really 3 things being in play, and that's love, understanding, and partnership. And, we do this just like Mission does it because we love our neighbors, we love the town of Gilbert, we love our community, and we do this out of a broader understanding that Jesus said, regardless of race, religion, or creed, love your neighbor as yourself. And we do this with an understanding that we are made for more. We do this as a part of something bigger than ourselves. We are here to serve the community and not ourselves. And then ultimately, none of this happens without a partnership and without the vision and the support of the mayor, the wisdom and the support of the council. We simply don't get to do these kinds of events without their investment and their continued leadership and partnership. So we're grateful to be a part of it.
Oh, and 2, Pastor Scott, this is yours. That certificate. Thank you. As we're just about to get on with the bulk of the meeting, Vice Mayor Cook, Councilmember Taylor, if you could, this is current events from the mayor. During the month of July, I was out of town for a few days, and I wanted to thank Vice Mayor Cook for his service. Some family members are here, and Jenny, if you could please stand wherever you are, right there, and represent the Cook family. Thank you for the sacrifice you made. The best way I know how to say thank you is there's a candy bar that by official proclamation is the Candy Bar of Gilbert. We give this to the Cook family. It's a cup filled with Snicker bars, and that's our appreciation we give to you. Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Cook, I know you're speechless on that, and yet we need you now to be ready for the next item, communication from citizens. Do we have any requests tonight?
Well, you know, we've had a long vacation. I think I may have forgotten how to do this. But anyways, we do not have anyone tonight for communication from citizens tonight.
All right, thank you. We will move on to the consent calendar, and I will also turn to Vice Mayor Cook. What requests do we have from the council related to the consent calendar?
Mayor, the only request is we have agenda item number 14 that we're going to pull for discussion.
And so for the other items, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I would like to move that we approve agenda items 9 through 13, 9 through 11, 13, 15, 15A, 19 through 25, including 22A. And then I'd like to turn agenda item number 30 to Councilmember Peterson, agenda item 31 to Councilmember Ray, and agenda item number 32 to Councilmember Taylor.
For agenda item 30, I move to appoint David Kernick as a regular member to the Industrial Development Authority to complete the remainder of the term ending March 11th, 2019.
For agenda item 31A, I move that we approve Kellen Miko as a one regular member to complete the remainder of the term ending January 31, 2015, plus a term beginning February 1, 2016 and ending January 31, 2018. And this is the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Board. And I also move that we approve Michael Pickett as the alternate member to complete the remainder of the term for the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Board ending January 31, 2015, plus a term beginning February 1, 2015 and ending January 31, 2016.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Cook, I move to approve for item 32, Stephen Skirvin as one regular member to complete the remainder of the term ending January 31, 2017 on the Human Relations Commission, and move to approve Lisa Mangan as one alternate member to complete the remainder of the term ending January 31, 2015, plus a term beginning February 1, 2015 and ending January 31, 2016, also on the Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. With that motion, is there a second? Or did we miss one?
There's a second, Mayor. Just real quick, there was a typo on...
On 31A, it should say beginning February 1, 2015, not
Correct.
2016.
The agenda item has it written correctly, just the actual agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that motion and second to the council, please vote. Those items are approved with a 7-0 vote. And agenda item 14, who wished to speak? Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor, I'm sure there won't be a lot of discussion. I don't intend that. This is a tough item for me. I certainly see pros and cons, positives and negatives to the new direction we're taking with the senior center. With that, though, I want to keep an open mind. I see some potentials here working with Parks and Rec and taking this in-house, and I'm willing to keep an open mind for this first year and see how that works out. So with that, Mayor, I'll be happy to move to approve if there's no other comment.
Thank you. With that motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, with that motion, second, please vote. Agenda item 14 is approved with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. We move to the public hearing. Agenda items 26 through 29. Vice Mayor Cook, just to help the council know, do we have citizens that wish to speak on some of these items?
Mayor, on agenda item 26, if necessary, we do have one person that would like to speak in favor, again, if necessary.
Okay.
For agenda item number 27, we have 18 individuals that have filled out cards. 15 of the individuals would like to defer their time to the spokesperson, leaving 3 for agenda item 27 to speak.
Okay. So on 27, it would be 15 for a spokesperson and then plus 3?
I believe one of the 3 would be the spokesperson.
Okay, great. Thank you. So plus spokesperson plus 2. Okay.
Yes, and then agenda number item 28, we had one individual that sent us a communication for us to ask a question, and none for agenda item 29.
Okay. Let me move forward then, and as the agenda says, we can take different votes, and so let's focus on 26 and 29. And so I open the public hearing on agenda items 26 and 29. And we did have one person on 26 that is available to speak if there are any questions or concerns from the council. Okay. Let's move forward then, and I close the public hearing on agenda items 26 and 29, and we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve agenda items 26 and agenda item 29.
Second. Okay, with that motion second, please vote. Thank you. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. I now open the public hearing on agenda item number 27, and we will begin with a short presentation from town staff. Amy? And Amy, you're probably about to do this, but if you could give a quick overview too for citizens that aren't familiar with what 27 is all about.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of Town Council. Amy Thames, Planning Department. We are here this evening to discuss Bordeaux appeal. Bordeaux is a preliminary plat that was heard by the Planning Commission on June 4th, 2014 and approved. Bordeaux is a subdivision in will be a subdivision in South Gilbert. It is proposed 45 lots on 30 acres. It was annexed and zoned in 2006. It is conventional zoning. There is no planned area development overlay. It is straight out of our code and standards. And Bordeaux was in compliance with the town general plan, the policies, the long-range planning, and the development standards, and therefore Planning Commission did approve on June 4th. The neighbors filed an appeal through a member of Town Council following the approval by the Planning Commission. They did meet the requirements of that appeal. There were several outstanding issues that we will be discussing this evening regarding Bordeaux. Primarily, the main issue that is being discussed is the construction of 172nd Street, which is the east property line of Bordeaux. The location of the site is in South Gilbert. It is south of Riggs Road, north of Hunt Highway, and east of Higley Road. You can see on the vicinity map that it is hatched out there at 172nd Street. So it's at the southwest corner of Santan Boulevard and 172nd Street. Oops, a little too fast there. We do have an aerial of the general vicinity around the site. The site is shown in yellow on the screen. There are existing homes in the area, specifically to the east and directly south of the site. A lot of the roads in the area are not improved roads. They, other than Higley Road, which is 4 lanes coming down and then narrowing to 2 lanes as it goes into Hunt Highway. Hunt Highway is a 2-lane road in that area. Wrecker Road, which is the next mile road over, is dirt on the southern portion, and it is improved On the northern portion, adjacent to Cordova, which is a development at the corner of Riggs and Recker. The rest of the roads in the area really are, shall I say, a little bit of a hodgepodge of development. There's some pavement, there's some not pavement. Some of the pavement was done by the homeowner. Some pavement was done as part of a plat. There are some half-widths, there are private drives, private easements. So there's a lot of different roadways down there. And over the years, a lot of standards weren't really being met or joined together well. This is Bordeaux, the development that is proposed at the southwest corner of Santan Boulevard and 172nd. They do meet standard conditions. They were requested to dedicate and improve both Santan Boulevard and 172nd Street. They were also requested to do fissure mitigation. There's several fissures down in the south area. There are no lots put on those fissures. Landscape and open space were provided for connectivity. Lot sizes meet the land development code at SF 15, which is 15,000 square foot lot minimum. No zoning was done as part of this approval. This was simply a preliminary plat approval. Developer is to finance and construct the improvements as agreed upon in the plan set that was approved on June 4th. And this is just a highlight of those items. What we see here is a map depicting what some of the issues, what one of the primary issues is with this development and what the appeal was based on. The appeal is based on the fact that 172nd, at this point in time, is not a through street. You cannot drive from Santan Boulevard to Hunt Highway on 172nd. There is access, and we will go into detail on some of these points in a little bit, but there is a barricade and it's a private drive as you come south on 172nd. So actually, to get to the southern portion of 172nd, you'd actually have to go on Hunt Highway and go north, or you have to go to 174th Street and then cut over on one of the east-west streets to get to 172nd Street. This project would require the construction of a 40-foot half-width for the western portion of the road that it would be adjacent to this property, completing the through street from Hunt Highway to Santan Boulevard. I will also note that 172nd is shown in the general plan on the circulation map as a collector road. One of the items noted on the the appeal application, was their disagreement, the neighborhood's disagreement with 172nd being shown as a collector. To amend the designation of 172nd as a collector road, it would require a general plan amendment. This project was not heard as a general plan amendment and rezoning. It was a preliminary plat. So therefore, we cannot move this evening to redesignate 172nd and as anything other than a collector road, because that would require a general plan amendment. So just for clarification for that. What you see also here is not only in red, you see the private drive and the barricade. You see where the 40-foot half-width on Bordeaux would be improved. For 80, well, not for 80, but for about an eighth of a mile toward the south property line of Bordeaux, there would be an 80-foot full-width completion of the collector road. Now, the west half, as proposed, would be completed as the Town of Gilbert collector road, which has a curb and gutter and bike lane and cross-street asphalt, as well as a 6-foot sidewalk that meanders, though in this case it was amended to go straight because of the power poles. On the east side of the center line, there is a 40-foot half-width that is per Maricopa County major rural collector street cross-section. So for that distance, there would be a full road improvement. Once you hit the Bordeaux southern property line, then the road is only improved on the east half of center line per the county major rural collector cross-section, and then it completes out to Hunt Highway with that. Some of the neighborhood concerns that staff has identified, and the neighbors have a large presentation to give tonight.
And Amy, I think that microphone got shifted a little bit closer, and thank you.
All right. No problem, Mr. Mayor. Just to go over a few of the neighborhood concerns and to look at a few of the images that staff has gathered. Existing private drive. There is an existing private drive, as you see here on the right-hand image that accesses lots, about 8 or so lots, just to the east of 172nd. They have the right for the private drive. It is their property. They have it barricaded by right. The Bordeaux construction of 172nd Street would join adjacent to this. The two roads would not combine to create a single 172nd Street. The private road to the east is a private drive. It has not been dedicated. So therefore, there would be two entrances side by side with two-way traffic for both of those. And the neighbors have identified this as an issue, that they feel that there's enough traffic from that neighborhood with those lots, plus any traffic that would be coming north and going south on 172nd to cause confusion at Santan Boulevard where this situation occurs.
And Amy, just a quick question at this point. If 172nd goes through, the barricades on that private street would stay. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And I will add to that one note that how that is going to be addressed, what kind of barricade or definition between those roads would occur, how they would be signed, that is all something that would be designed during construction documents at that time of submittal and worked through with our traffic department. So that specific detail has not been decided or drawn out at this point in time, and that was still to be decided upon. Not a through street and cut-through traffic. The neighborhood to the east is extremely concerned about cut-through traffic, and that traffic from Hunt Highway and to Santan Boulevard and vice versa will be going. They're concerned that the speed of the traffic will be too fast and that it's an unsafe condition considering there are no sidewalks out there, that there are horses, there are children, there are bicycles, and everyone shares the road with the cars because it is a very rural area. So as you look north, you can see the barricade that exists there today. And the neighborhood is very, very concerned about traffic and increased traffic volumes within the neighborhood. I will also point out, though, that Bordeaux does have 1/8 of a mile of road that would be a full cross street, and then another 1/8 of a mile that would be a modified street cross section to accommodate two-way traffic, and that Bordeaux, as a development, as a property owner, does have the right to access 172nd Street and to develop to connect to it. So that is what staff based our approvals on as their rights. The existing rural major collector half street. Here you can see in the images what it looks like out there today. There's approximately 27, 28 foot of pavement, and then there's the shoulder and additional landscape area as decomposed granite for the most part. Some of the neighbors have done improvements within the right-of-way. You can see the block wall is generally at the right-of-way line, and there are some plant materials and other things. And as you go further down the street, people's front yards kind of bled into that right-of-way area. But it has been like that for quite a few years and will continue to be so because there are no outstanding plans at this point in time to do any improvement project to the area. Homes fronting onto 172nd Street. The neighbors are very concerned that there are 5 homes at the far south end of 172nd that do front immediately onto 172nd Street. The right-of-way is within what you see as their yards a little bit, and then they have a 20-foot front setback per the plat. Some of these homes have been there since annexation in 2006. A few were being built at that time, and then 1 or 2 were built after. And then as you can also see to the south of Hunt Highway that there is the Indian Reservation, and there is nothing in that area at this time or planned for that area at this time. The discussion points this evening are as follows. Staff believes that the discussion revolves around these 3 issues. Should 172nd Street be a through street? Should 172nd Street be constructed now, or should it be deferred as discussed? And what Collector Street cross-section would be appropriate if it were to be constructed? Staff is prepared to talk about the options that were outlined in your staff report. I do know that the neighbors have a presentation with those options in it, and they have added a few additional options. If you'd like, I can go over the options, or we can wait, and if there are specific questions regarding an option, we can talk about it at that time.
Do you have a slide that has the options?
I have slides for every option that staff outlined, and then the neighbors have slides of the options within their presentation.
Why don't we have you give the options that staff has outlined?
The first is the Bordeaux approved cross-section, which is two-way traffic per the Town of Gilbert Collector Street cross-section standard with street lights, a 6-foot sidewalk at the back of curb. As I said, it was connected to back of curb instead of meandering to accommodate large electric poles within the area. Future bike lane once the full right-of-way is completed, and 11 foot of landscaping. The cross-sections are available if we need to go over any of them. Option number 1, which will also be known as option number 4 with the neighbor's presentation, construction of 172nd Street as designed with speed cushions. There would be 2 sets of speed cushions north of Flintlock and 3 speed cushions south of Flintlock. Here are speed cushions that I went out and took pictures of this morning. They are on Fairview. If you'll recall, Fairview is 1 street north of Pecos. Fairview neighborhood has had a lot of trouble with cut-through traffic when Pecos is backed up at the signal at Greenfield Road. So speed cushions were placed within that neighborhood. There's probably about 6 or 7 along Fairview for the mile length. They are comfortable at going over at about 20, 25 miles an hour. Once you get above 30, I will attest it was not comfortable. So I did try them out myself this morning, and as cars were going over them, they were either slowing down or maintaining a slow speed at the posted amount of miles per hour. Option number 2, also known as neighborhood option number 5, constructing 172nd Street with using the county's major rural collector standard, which would then match the half width of what is constructed south, a little bit from a little bit above Flintlock and then south to Hunt Highway. That way the cross-section would still be a rural cross-section, and it would be in keeping with the character of the area. The bike lane would be future because for the half width adjacent to the project, you have to use the majority of the asphalt for the two-way traffic. And landscape with a DG trail to provide safe route up to Santan Boulevard for students who are going up to school, riding their bikes and walking. And then speed cushions, 2 north of Flintlock and 3 speed cushions south of Flintlock. The exact locations have not been discussed. We do have the cross-section for the major rural collector if we need to discuss it further. Option 3. Option 3 is a little bit out of the ordinary for the town. It's to hold monies as an in lieu of payment, and so it'd be in lieu of construction for a future point in time when a CIP project would be mandated for the area, whether it be a larger project or just for that specific road. And there would be a minimum of, from Flintlock to the south property line of Bordeaux, there would be the construction of the appropriate half width based on the cross-section that is agreed upon. So there would be a portion for about 660 feet that would be a full street width for that. And then for 660 feet north up to Santan Boulevard, the road would not be constructed, though staff would prefer that the DG trail and the landscape be put in at the time of development so that there is a safe route going through. But there would be no road, so the conflict at Santan Boulevard with the 2 different streets at the same time would not happen until a later point in time when the town could acquire the various rights-of-way within the area, and then full improvements would be done. There are cross-sections and comparisons if we need them. And then option number 4 is what the neighborhood came back to staff with and said, well, we like the idea of the in lieu payment and to defer the construction of the northern part of 172nd to a future point in time. However, we would prefer that you use the town's Aguarian Street cross-section, which is a residential cross-section that is 50-foot total wide, 25-foot half width, that does not have curb and gutter. It is a ribbon strip on the side with asphalt in the middle. Staff did not find this to be adequate. Not only is it less than what's already out there today, it would not meet the requirement of the general plan to be a collector road. It would also not be the width that would be wide enough to hold two-way traffic safely. And we feel that the neighbors have already expressed that there is an issue with safety, with cars, with the amount of bikes and kids and traffic and horses that go up and down that road, to narrow the cross-section to even less than what would be out there today necessarily, we just don't feel that an Aguarian Street cross-section would be appropriate. And then staff came back with an option to number 3. We said the option number 4 that the neighbors offered with the Aguarian cross-section would not suffice, but we would be agreeable to using either the county major or minor Collector Street cross-section to keep with the rural character. That would not have streetlights. It would have a DG trail. It would not have a concrete sidewalk. It would not have curb and gutter. It would be asphalt with a shoulder with DG and with whatever landscape was constructed with whatever project was being done. We do have the cross-section if we need to discuss it further. So in summary, Bordeaux Development complied with the town general plan as adopted by the voters, and the circulation plan was recently reapproved in February of 2014. The road has been shown as a collector for many years and continues to be shown as a collector, and it would require a general plan amendment to change. The development upholds the town's development standards per the engineering standards, the land development code, and whatever other standards that would apply. The development will finance, dedicate, and construct improvements at the time of platting and permitting. Therefore, staff is still in support of what was approved at the Planning Commission, but we are open to discussions, and that is why we are here this evening. Thank you, Mayor Lewis.
Thank you. To the Town Council, are there any questions that you would like to ask Amy at this point? Councilmember Taylor.
Amy, for the options that staff has brought forward, can you give me a sense of priority or preference from staff of those options?
Mayor Lewis and Councilmember Taylor, in the order that I have them listed here this evening is the order of our preference. Staff would prefer it as approved. We are open to speed cushions and other traffic calming measures. Those speed cushions are our preferred method. We have discussed option number 3, and deferred payment is something that is out of the ordinary, but it can be discussed, and we are willing to also modify the cross-section to a county standard, whether minor collector or major collector, but we feel it must be a collector based on the general plan.
Thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Cooper.
So just east of there is Recker Road, and could you tell us or remind us what entities have jurisdiction over Recker Road, or now and in the future?
I believe, and I'm going to go ahead and go to, I do have the circulation map on here, and if we blow this up, because it is not a colored line, as you can see, Hunt Highway becomes a black line, and then Recker Road, which is the right-hand side jurisdictional boundary you see here, they are within other municipalities' jurisdiction. So Recker Road at that point, right in here, is not the town's jurisdiction based on this map.
Thank you. Councilmember Ray.
What about 174th? It's within that map, but is it county or Queen Creek or Gilbert?
174th is within the town of Gilbert jurisdictional boundary. There are, and if I go to the next slide, I do have annexation areas. So you can see on here areas that are not annexed by the town of Gilbert. So there is some land within 174th that is not within the town of Gilbert's jurisdiction. Much of the land within 174th is not dedicated except for areas that have been platted. So on these various roads, there are pieces and parts of plats, pieces and parts of dedications, pieces and parts of construction. And so there may be pavement on 172nd, but it's not a through street. On 174th, it goes all the way through from Santan to Hunt, but it's not fully paved. Recker Road from Santan to Hunt is not paved, but it is partially paved from a portion north of Santan up to Riggs. So, as you
So I guess my question becomes, if it was decided to do something with 174th, to pave 174th instead of 172nd, and do we have the ability to do that as a town, or do we not have control of 174th to even make that decision?
Mayor Lewis and Councilmember Ray, Without doing an in-depth study on that, my gut response would be we do not have the right-of-way in which to do that at this point in time. Just as on 172nd, we would have to acquire right-of-way through various processes and then go through a CIP project.
Councilmember Peterson?
You mentioned that staff's recommendation is based on the general plan showing a collector there. I guess what I'm trying to understand is what developments and what traffic counts generated by those developments did we plan that would have required that collector? And I ask that because certainly at the current volumes we have now, there's no need for a collector now. So I'm trying to understand what the thinking was, or analysis, or traffic counts, or development that were behind that plan for that collector. Can you enlighten us on that a little?
Mayor Lewis and Councilmember Peterson, I am going to go ahead and turn to Eric Gadarian, our town traffic engineer, to speak to half-mile roads and to the various hierarchy of road systems we have here in Gilbert and how some of these decisions are made.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm Eric Gadarian, the town traffic engineer. The general plan and the circulation map and 172nd Street being a collector predates me here at the town. But typically, when you're doing general planning, you're looking at land use types and then planning your collector streets either on the half mile or quarter mile, or if you have a planned development going within the planned development at the general plan stage, and you know, for the circulation map, that's typically how it's done. There's not a detailed traffic volume study for all collectors and future collectors.
Thank you.
It's helpful because I know we don't build roads for the sake of building roads. They're there to support a certain traffic volume. So I'm just trying to understand what the numbers were based on what development densities and things like that would have told us we needed one. If we don't have the answer, that's fine, but that's something that I'm looking for.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Cook?
This is probably a question for you, Eric, but Amy, could you pull up the picture that shows the private drive looking southbound?
Oh, the very first one, I'm sorry. For some reason.
And then this will be a question probably to Eric. Okay, so we have the private drive, and if the development of the, we'll call it the public road to the west of that, help me understand, because that's going to be very confusing for drivers. How are you going to paint it? How are you going to put I mean, what is the logic here that you think that would be the best for, you know, identifying that this is a public road versus that being a private road and causing confusing?
Sure. Mayor Lewis, Vice Mayor Cook, Amy touched on a little bit. We don't have final details on the plan. Because it is a private roadway and it would be ours would be a public roadway, it would be physically separated. The asphalt wouldn't be touching. It wouldn't just be striping. There would have to be some sort of physical barrier there, whether that's curbing or some sort of fencing type barrier. That hasn't been discussed yet.
Thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Daniels?
Thanks, Mayor. So lots of conversations have occurred about this. I was at the Planning Commission meeting. They spent an extensive amount of time. Eric's going to be sorry that I ever got his phone number because I drove around the neighborhood after I met with the neighbors today. I did drive around there this afternoon and made Eric stay on the phone with me while he walked me through all the different alignments. And it is hard to envision a road there. It really is. But in a conversation that you and I had about access for Bordeaux, and we've experienced this recently on Greenfield Road where we had that sewer line break and blocked essentially an entrance to a neighborhood. And if they hadn't had a secondary exit and entrance, it could have been bad for that neighborhood. You've indicated that it's really important for Bordeaux to have a secondary exit entrance point. And it should come out to Flintlock. Can you explain that alignment, just so that we understand essentially because really what we're trying to do is accommodate a new neighborhood being put in. I guess I want us to focus on that first. Can you go over from a traffic and engineering standpoint, a safety standpoint, what the minimum requirement would be for a neighborhood like this as far as having primary and secondary access points?
Mayor Lewis, Councilmember Daniels, I think it's town policy to have 2 access points into a neighborhood. It's our preference that those access points come from different roadways, expressly for the purpose if one roadway is closed for some reason, utility break, car crash, whatnot, we don't shut off complete access. So I think that's why when we've been talking about the cash in lieu payment, it's really the section north of Flintlock where the Bordeaux subdivision it comes out at. So everything south of their entrance we would still be looking at constructing. That would provide access for Bordeaux. It would also still continue 172nd Street to not be a through street.
So Mayor, I don't necessarily like designing roadways from the dais. I don't think that that's a good practice for us. And in a brief conversation with our town attorney, Mike Hamblin, he indicated that if we were going to enter into a cash in lieu of construction in order to perhaps construct later on, perhaps not, but to have the option that we would need to continue this for 30 days in order to be able to work out an agreement with the developer. So even though my first preference is for us just to move forward today with approving the plat and then working on the road at some later date, driving around those neighborhoods, and because there are so many varying interests, be it jurisdictions or private roads or county or even the quality of the construction that's there in the places that it is, Mayor, I think to make some decisions today about what the best road is to be a thoroughfare, I don't think that necessarily does the area the best service. But I do think getting people from point A to point B is imperative as we continue to plan this community. And so thinking big picture, I would love to see us come back before we do the general plan update and really identify the half-mile marker is the logical spot to put it. If we were doing the general plan today, we probably still would do it at the half-mile marker. But I think that area also, the stakeholders in the area need to be involved in those types of decisions, including Queen Creek and the county and the Indian Reservation and all the jurisdictions that really do have an interest in the circulation of the area. I don't know that we can plan 172nd today, but I do want to be able to move forward with the Bordeaux neighborhood.
And to our town attorney, as we have heard, there's no concerns that have been raised about the development itself. Are we able to give approval for the development to go forward without having a road decision tonight?
Mayor, members of the council, if you approve the preliminary plat, the final plat approval will be simply administrative. So consequently, in other words, rights attach if you approve the preliminary plat, which frankly weakens negotiating position. And so if you wish to discuss options of different roads or different types of roadways or funds to be set aside, that should be done before preliminary plat approval.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ray had a comment.
Is somebody here from the development from Bordeaux? I'd be interested in hearing what their time frame is. We've heard staff, we've heard the neighbors, and I look forward to hearing more from the neighbors. But I'd be interested to see where Bordeaux stands on whether they're willing to wait, if they need to start now, or.
And Eric, before we have our applicant come up, and thank you for being here, just with Councilmember Daniels' point and with this particular slide up, I'll ask my question and we'll jump right to that. one of the options, and I think it's option 3 from Amy, would be not to construct the road, but we still need 2 access points. And I have heard, and our applicant can comment on this, that potentially that over by Flintlock and 172nd would be gated, or would have a gate so that it could be unlocked for fire safety, public safety needs, but a crash gate, thank you. And is that correct, Amy?
Mayor Lewis, our discussions were more around that it would be a gated subdivision community, so there would be gates out on Santan and gates to Flint.
Okay.
Neighbors have brought up potentially just doing crash gates, though it is my understanding the applicant was leaning more toward gating the entire community to stop cut-through traffic, because if you don't gate Santan Boulevard, what's to stop someone from coming through, getting all the way through, finding out they can't get through, and having to turn around and go back out?
And we'll have you address that in just a minute. Just from a town perspective, does a catch gate work? If option 3 that you presented were selected, is that something that we would approve?
Mayor Lewis, with crash gates and fire lane access, I can't fully answer that question because that goes back to our emergency services. It has been approved in the past. Traffic engineering may not support it because of then we still just have the one real access into the neighborhood where we're looking for 2 access points.
Thank you. So to Councilmember Ray, we'd invite the applicant to come forward, please. And you may have some high-level comments you wanted to make, but I think your specific question was to give an overview of what the plans are, timelines, and so forth.
Yeah, so overall would be helpful with specific points of timing if we were to postpone this for whatever the reason, and then also willingness to change the plat. So if they were to put 2 entrances on Santan Boulevard rather than one there and one on 172nd, essentially how flexible are you, or is this what you want and you want to move forward with just this?
Sure. Mayor Lewis and council members, my name is Troy Peterson, 1295 West Washington in Tempe. So I've heard it said that it's good to have options, so you would find yourself in an envious position tonight because there are lots of options here. I would just like to make a few comments and then open up for questions. On as far as the Bordeaux project goes, with 172nd Street, the owner of the property is open to the project can live independently of 172nd Street, and so whether that is there or whether that does not get built, the project still lives, and so we look at it as more of a town staff / council decision to determine what's in the best interest of the neighbors. A couple of in trying to add some clarity to the decision to be made as well. Really, it comes down to, I think, 2 main decisions. 1, you either build the road, or 2, you don't build the road. There's a lot of, other options in between. Whichever one of those you choose, there's a few details to be worked out as far as what was discussed with the secondary access and that type of thing, but those are things that we work out all the time, and things where there are ways to work that out as well. If the current preliminary plat, as approved by Planning Commission, does show the road being constructed, or at least the west half street being constructed. So if the option is preferred not to build the road, just a couple of physical limitations to the site that I would want the council to consider in whatever options, because the physical limitations actually limit several of the options that are being shown. So first off, as was discussed, the secondary access coming at the southeast corner along the Flintlock alignment, if 172nd Street does not get built, then it would be the owner's preference to have the entire community be gated with the primary entry gate up on Santan Boulevard, because that's where the traffic would be. A secondary access gate, whether that is a a crash gate for emergency vehicles only, or if that needs to be a full paved street section that residents can use as a secondary access. That would be if it were a crash gate, then it would obviously limit inflow of ingress and egress of traffic from the southeast corner. If it needed to be a gate that is accessed by the subdivision, then it would be what's called an exit-only gate. So a gate that's actuated as you pull up to it. It wouldn't have a key code or that type of thing that you would normally see at a gated community. That would all be up on Santan. It would just be an exit-only so that people could come out. And then if for whatever reason there was some emergency and the Santan Boulevard entry were blocked, then the gate would be, the residents have remote controls, or they have ways that they can use that gate to get in and out. Then with the number of lots in the project, the owner is an understanding. Staff has some reservations on having 2 full access points be there, but the owner is comfortable with just having the single primary access on Santan Boulevard, and then the crash gate, fire, emergency access down at the southeast corner, and then going to that existing paved area. So that is one item, and then just let me hit one other item, then I'll open up for questions. Amy, could you go to the one that just showed the pictures down, 172nd Street? Yep, that works. So the other physical limitation, if you look at the photo to the right here, which is looking south down 172nd, there is an existing line of power poles that are right there. So those power poles are right now under the current configuration. The west half street is 26 feet to back a curb, and then you have about 5 more feet to where those power poles are located, and then the sidewalk would wander around that, and then you have a landscape tract between the power poles and the lots on the subdivision. So the existence of those power poles, and if those power poles are double circuit 69,000 volt lines, if they were 12,000 kV lines, 12 kV lines, then they would typically be buried underground with the project. But these are 69 kV lines, so they cannot be buried with the project, and those lines stay above ground. And so the existence of those poles creates a physical limitation on what options you can look at. With building the half street, those poles are to where the road gets built, then there's space, and then you have some landscaping, a tract, and then the wall, and so it all works. If with some of the different options where that width varies, those poles are the SRP easement is only 28 feet from the center line, so that limits the area that can be I guess thought through or optioned out as far as what can be done there because of those pole locations. Another option that's been talked about is, well, if the road doesn't get built and you change and let the plat expand to include that area, that's really not an option because those power lines limit us. Where the lots can't move any further east because of where those power poles are. So we're limited by the physical constraint of those power poles. So as I said, those are the 2 primary issues. If there's other, as I would reserve some response time as other issues or preferred options are developed to answer questions. But those are the primary physical issues. And like I said, the owner is very open to options of not having the road go through as well.
Troy, the timing where you've done everything that you needed to do, if for some reason there's a delay, talk to us about that, because you're a business partner, you've done your part, and now the road discussion is causing us to move a little bit slower. So if for some reason there's a delay from a business standpoint, does that work, or does that put you in a tough spot? Tell us more about that.
Sure. So as far as timing goes, an understanding and it's our desire as well to be a good neighbor and have it all work together and to end up with the best possible solution. So if another period between the next council meeting is needed to work through the details a little bit on this, then we'll accept that. That's an acceptable arrangement.
But a 3-4 month time delay, I assume, would cause some challenges.
Sure, Mayor Lewis, with that, as with anything else, we would want it time constrained, because if for no other reason than having a deadline forces the issues to be addressed and decisions to be made rather than kicking the can down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Troy at this point? To Councilmember Daniels, I understand the comment you made, and I appreciate it. With our citizens here, which we are honored to have you here, and thank you for your efforts. And I know that 15 of you have worked together, and I think Ron will be the spokesperson. We do have some time dedicated that we want to hear from our citizens, and why don't we do that at this point? And to Vice Mayor Cook, I'll jump ahead because this was one conversation I need to bring you in the loop on. With the 15 citizens, we've talked about having Ron be given about 10 minutes. And to our Deputy Director, why don't we plan on put the yellow light up at 10 minutes so Ron has about a minute after that. So it's probably 11 minutes, but he gets a warning at the 10-minute mark. And let's start with Ron.
What about the other three?
And we'll do the others after Ron.
Ron, we welcome you to the front.
And it looks like it's a team of two with Richard. And Ron, you'll set the standard when we do have citizens come to the mic. For the record, if you could state your name and if you're a Gilbert resident. And then you'll be given 10 minutes to speak, and then you'll have a yellow light, which will then let you know that you have about a minute left.
Mayor Lewis, excuse me. My name is Ron Colombo. I am a resident of Gilbert. I live on Sunnydale Drive, which is just off 172nd Street. I'm the third house off of 172nd. But before you start the clock on me, I'd like to see if there's any of the family feeding committee left here, because I really didn't get a chance to eat dinner tonight. Maybe we can get together? Or some of those Snickers bars may be available. Okay, you can start the clock on me now. Let me know if I'm not speaking into the mic. I am representing the majority of the residents in the neighborhood surrounding 172nd Street who are appealing the preliminary plat as it was approved by the Planning Commission. Amy has touched on what the preliminary plat proposes in part, and I don't need to touch on that. However, our community objections have several major points that we want to discuss tonight. And those major points are, one, we think the preliminary plat, as proposed and approved by the Planning Commission, results in an unsafe residential street in our neighborhood. We think the connection of 172nd Street to Santan Boulevard is unnecessary for expected local traffic. We think the basis for identifying 172nd Street as a collector street has been based on incorrect information, and incomplete information, excuse me. And regardless, we disagree with Amy's statement that the preliminary plat met all the provisions of the general plan. We think there's many portions of the general plan that are in conflict with the preliminary plat as approved. The unsafe conditions, we want to establish first that 172nd Street is a residential street the way it exists right now. We have no sidewalks, no street curbs, no street lights. We have no common areas. The streets are our recreation areas where people walk their dogs, their children, they bicycle, they ride horses on it. Further, we have 5 properties, as Amy described, that are fronting 172nd Street, and we have something like 14 driveways on even houses, including the 5 houses, and then other houses that have driveways spilling out onto 172nd. There's 14 of them. We think opening up 172nd will cause an increase in traffic, and that it won't be traffic of neighbors, not even the Bordeaux neighbors. We think it's going to be cut through shortcut traffic. These pictures show the driveways that are spilling out onto 172nd Street from the existing residences right now. Some of them are multiple driveways for houses, and some are just individual, but they run the length of the existing right-of-way. This is an overhead view showing the yellow arrows coming up from the bottom, show the homes facing 172nd Street. The left edge here is Hunt Highway. The right edge is Santan Boulevard. So north is to the right in this overhead shot. The arrows from above pointing to the street showing the location of the driveways, and the existing barrier would be right here. I understand that the laser pointer is hard to see for people who are watching on camera. Amy showed a photo of the existing private road looking south from Santan Boulevard, looking south on 172nd Street. But we wanted to point out what an unsafe condition we feel this is going to be generated by having that half road be completed there. We're going to have an existing two-way street adjacent to another new two-way street. One person wants to make a right, the other person wants to make a left. As those arrows show, you've got a problem. And as the traffic engineer has stated, currently there are no solid plans on how to deal with this. It has to be worked out. As it is, it's unsafe. If it goes through like that, it's going to take major mitigation to keep this intersection safe. This is looking northward on 172nd Street at the barrier. The barrier that will remain is the red and white portion. The little bitty makeshift barrier you see on the left is actually on the proposed portion of the extension of 172nd that the Bordeaux subdivision would build on. The local residents actually put that up because people were driving around the major barrier there. This is still looking northward on 172nd Street, showing the path that traffic will have to take when they're going north on 172nd when they encounter that barrier. And if the road is extended through to Santan Boulevard, they're going to have to merge over to the left there and get around that barrier on the proposed half-road street. We think that's an unsafe condition. Somebody may be impaired some night. Some people just don't pay attention, have their phone out, and they could run right in that barrier. Second objection we have is the necessity of having that street go through. We don't feel it is necessary. It's not based on need that we see. We have very low current traffic. 172nd Street does not exist south of Hunt Highway, and it probably never will because it's Indian Reservation. 172nd Street does not exist north of Santan Boulevard, and it's county land right there right now, or there's gated developments. The potential for future development in that area is very small. I can show you on this map here, 172nd Street, and my laser pointer is not working. 172nd Street is right here. Bordeaux is in this area. This is a platted area with partially completed homes. They're large lots. This is the only undeveloped area left on 172nd Street. So we don't see any growth in residential or anything else taking place there that's going to require it to have a major collector street defined at 172nd Street. This map just shows quickly for reference the only paved roads between Power Road on the right and Higley Road on the left is 172nd Street and surrounding neighborhood that are part of the Breckenwood subdivision. All of the other roads, which do go from Hunt Highway to Santan Boulevard, none of them are paved, but they all go through. The only road in between Power and Higley that does not go through is 172nd Street. Our next objection was what we feel was the designation of 172nd Street as a future collector, not a current collector, a future collector in the circulation plan. We think it was most likely based on looking at the map and saying it's halfway between Recker Road and Higley Road, which are our major roads according to the plan as either current or future arterials. We don't think that designation was based on existing traffic counts. We don't think it was based on any traffic modeling. We asked for both in meetings with staff. We were not provided information or told that either of them existed. And if it was based on modeling, we would have asked for the particular model, the parameters, and the assumptions. Portions of the general plan that we feel the proposed plat does not meet are given in specific sections. These are some of them that I've highlighted of the visions and goals of the plan. Things should be acceptable to the community, should have minimizing traffic and roads, should minimize cut-through, and it should be aesthetically pleasing. Think of that barrier and going around it. The collector street definition, this is extracted straight from the general plan, and it says collector streets connect arterial roadways with local streets to get to residential, employment, and commercial areas. And there's a local street definition in the general plan as well. We feel 172nd Street, as it exists, meets the definition of a local street, not a collector street, by the definitions in the general plan. This is the circulation map from the general plan. The dotted yellow line in the lower right, going up and down, is 172nd Street. Again, this says future, according to the legend of the circulation map. To us, that is a suggestion, that is a plan, that is, let's do it this way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's based on the need or the demographics and the character of what's down there. It was just a point on the map. There's a portion of the general plan called the Santan Character Area, which says that for character areas, and there's more than just Santan character areas, these are unique areas, and they're unlike any others in town. Well, we think our neighborhood meets that for sure. But one of the some of the goals and policies of that character area are to maintain existing rural character, low-density neighborhoods, and also to encourage residential streets designed to avoid heavy traffic. We have tried to come up with several alternatives, both with the town staff and on our own. So we're going to present those to you tonight. We have presented all of these to you previously, except for Councilmember Cooper, who do we...
And Ron, I see that yellow light, so that means a minute.
Okay.
Council members, we've seen these 6 alternatives, but I think if Ron is able just to bring them up, and then maybe Richard can fill in if he needs to, but please.
Yes, the first 3 alternatives on here are residence alternatives. The last 3 on here are pretty much, with some small changes, the ones that were presented by Amy. So I'll spend my time on the first 3. The first alternative would be to eliminate that extension of 172nd Street to connect with Santan Boulevard, provide 2 separate entrances to Bordeaux on Santan Boulevard. That would require, that would meet the requirement of 2 separate entrances into the subdivision for police and fire apparatus, and eliminate the connection to Flintlock Road. That eliminates all cut-through traffic on 172nd Street, and it eliminates any cut-through traffic in Bordeaux. It addresses all of our residents' concerns, and it will still provide the needed access for police and fire department. Second alternative, eliminate the extension of 172nd Street, retain the connection from Bordeaux to 172nd and Flintlock, but require it to be crash-gated. This again will meet all of our desires of not having cut-through traffic either on 172nd or through Bordeaux, and will meet the requirements of police and fire department access. The third alternative from our residents are to retain 172nd Street connection to Santan and retain the connection to Bordeaux subdivision, but require both of them to be unpaved, crash-graded connections. That will meet the access requirements for fire department and police, but it will mitigate and prevent any of the cut-through traffic issues. If I can just have a moment more to summarize, our major points are we feel it's unsafe to have that existing 172nd Street opened up and providing a shortcut and cut-through traffic. We don't think it's necessary to do that, to have that road go through based on existing or projected local traffic increases. We think the designation of a future collector was not based on complete information and not supported by hard traffic data, either current or projected. We think it is in conflict with portions of the general plan in general, and we think it's in conflict in particular with the Santan character area portion of the plan. And last of all, it's unwanted by the residents. A couple of you have mentioned to us in our meetings that you would not want to have something not happen during your term of office here that should have happened, and you have to consider down the road that you didn't help make it happen. But I also want to suggest, and that is good because that says you're looking out for the best interests of the town. I also want to suggest to you, though, that from a resident's point of view, we are Town of Gilbert as well as Town of Gilbert at large. We are your constituents. You are our elected representatives. We think you should need to find a compelling reason to make that street go through. And it should be compelling enough to overcome unsafe environment, should be compelling enough to say it's necessary based on true need, that it isn't in conflict with the general plan in Santan character area, and that you are trying to work with the local residents. Lastly, I want to leave you with this comment that we know you can do it, but just because you can, we don't think you necessarily should. I'll entertain questions, and I thank you very much for the additional time.
Thank you, Ron, for representing the 15 citizens who are here and for your community. And Vice Mayor Cook, we have 3 more requests, and why don't we do the 2-minute time frame?
We'd like to invite Richard Scott to the podium. On deck will be Blake Allen.
And Richard, as you saw, Ron, if you can state your name and if you're a Gilbert resident for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Richard Scott, and I'm a resident of Gilbert, and I live on Sunnydale Drive. I would just like to perhaps go over a couple of the points that were brought up earlier and mention something that I think is important. The concept of this being a collector street has been proven to be, I think, a driving force behind the need to build it, or the perceived need to build it. We really believe that it was mistaken in its designation, and we would like the opportunity to be able to fight it and change it. We know that if this goes through as planned, that's moot, our ability to do that. And we understand that there will be an opportunity to do so coming up in the next planning for the general plan. And again, with this being built or at least being delayed, we may have an opportunity to fight it and change it to something that we think is appropriate, which is a local street. I believe it was a point on the map. The road only goes between those 2 points of Santan, which is a collector street, and Hunt Highway, which we've heard is a artery, but it's not where it exists presently, and we don't know that it's been planned to become a major artery. Having said that, the other things about it is the concept of streetlights. We don't want any of those things, which are, we haven't really seen that brought up as part of the discussion, but we don't believe that whatever scenario takes place, we don't want streetlights there. And I think that's pretty much it. I think Ron and everybody has covered everything else pretty well. Did you have any questions of me?
Well, thank you. What we'll do is we'll continue on, and then if we have some questions, we may bring you back up.
We'd like to invite Blake Allen to the podium, and on deck will be Wadette Allen.
I'm Blake Allen. I live on 3621 East Sunnydale. I'm on the corner of 172nd and Sunnydale, so I thought it'd be important, since I live on 172nd, to just briefly say Ron and Richard did a great job and covered anything. I don't really have anything to add other than the fact that I appreciate council members that have talked to me, called me, come over and visit after I sent an email. I really appreciate the responsiveness from the town council. I was really impressed with that, and that you're really listening to our cause and our point of view. Obviously, I disagree with putting the road through, and I really would like to emphasize that just because, you know, you can do it, should we do it? I've worked for the federal government for 20 years, and let me just say this briefly. A lot of times we get disconnected from what our taxpayers, constituents, residents want just because we have a plan or something. Government creates its own agenda, but we need to go back to the people to find ourselves again and to start our agenda again sometimes. So that's what I think. In this instance, we have a developer that's very flexible, and I just think that we really could easily come to a good agreement between both sides. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake.
We'd like to invite Wadette Allen.
My name is Wadette Allen. I live on 3621 East Sunnydale Drive in Gilbert. And I have just something very brief to say. Well, first of all, thank you for everything all the time that you're giving us. And my main concern is our children. There's approximately 14 to 15 children that live on 172nd Street. So they range from newborn to 18 years old. And I just feel that it would be very unsafe for all of our children to be on, to live there with all that traffic. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. To the council, my guess would be we could have a lot of questions and additional dialogue, but it would help me because there has been a lot of study from each of us to just get a sense of if we have preliminary thoughts of what to do. And I realize, Councilmember Daniels, you gave a good summary that we do not want to be designing roads from the dais as council members. That's not our expertise, and that we want to stick more with the policy discussions. But if you could give a 15-second summary, I'll just start with Councilmember Peterson. That'll give us a feel for where we're at, and then maybe helpful feedback of where to go.
Mayor, I think as a general rule, planning ahead for what might come and providing streets that we don't know when we'll need but could need, especially when we have the opportunity to do it when development's taking place. I think that's a general rule that's good. I just think this is an exception because it's on the edge of development. It's really on the border of our town. Across the street is the reservation. I just don't see this area ever becoming high density and requiring this kind of volume and capacity. So I'm leaning towards, there's different ways we could do this, but I would like to see the half street dedicated as like a trail that's blocked to motor vehicles. The reason I say that, the space isn't needed by Bordeaux, so the development doesn't need it anyway, so that works for them. But at some future date, if it was needed, you could still convert it to a street because it would be town property after that. So that works for us as a contingency, if you will. And then, of course, that takes care of the concern of the cut-through traffic of the residents. It's an idea that hasn't been presented, but I think that might work. So, in short, I don't think we should develop this as a half street. I think it's very unsafe, frankly, from what I've seen.
Councilmember Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the residents' input. And the time spent with them, as I'm sure many council members have gone down and seen it. And the pictures kind of tell a story, but when you see it in person, this is a very bizarre situation. And I'm not sure it'll ever be replicated again in Gilbert. It may be, but it's a very strange situation. And I feel a little bit like we are trying to cram the triangle block into the square hole and trying to make it fit. And it doesn't seem like a great idea. Like others have said, and I told the residents, I don't want to design roads from the dais. We have professionals who are very good at that. After hearing the developer and the town and the residents, it sounds like there's still room for them to discuss a few more options. The developer does not sound like they're in a real rush. A few weeks will not make a major difference, it sounds like to them. So my inclination would be that we have staff work with the developer and with our town attorney to see what options exist, whether we take that money and hold it, whether we don't use the money at all, whether we take the money and we go develop 174th and make that through, and then look at what the timing would be on those. So if there were to be a general plan amendment, if we were to work with Queen Creek or the county, what some of those options are. But it seems like everyone's still wanting to come to a compromise, and that time is not, it does not need to be decided tonight. It sounds like.
Vice Mayor Cook?
When I went down and visited the area and kind of visualized what that road would look like, I was thinking about the roads that we do build. You know, when you think about, you know, a right-of-way that's clear and straight, and you have curbing, and you have sidewalks, and lighting and all that, this is not what's going to happen. It's not following what I would call our best practices as relates to any road. It is literally going to be a couple jogs, a half street. You know, ideally, you would think you would annex or get all of the land to make a road proper, but this is not a proper road. When I first saw the property, I was thinking that, again, to me, I had asked staff, well, what about the option of having the entrance to the property be on the north side, along Santan? And I still feel very strongly toward that if there is an opportunity to have the entrances to the property for Bordeaux to be, you know, 2 of them on the north side along Santan, that's my preference. And again, if staff and the Bordeaux folks, you know, could come up with that, and then we leave, as Councilmember Peterson said, maybe you leave it as kind of trail for something in the future, that if something were to come up, you know, where that might need it, you know, 5-10 years from now, at least there's an option for them.
So 2 entrances off of Santan Boulevard, but not to do a collector street, okay? Councilmember Taylor?
Mayor, thank you. The the principle that staff is asserting with the collector road, I think is generally a good one, and we should apply that. As it applies in this particular situation, I don't see the application due to, you know, a lot of the research we've all been exposed to, so I won't research that. But I don't think the volume really justifies its application in this situation. Just in short, a no road option is probably where I'm leaning right now. And I think the ones that were presented that seem to address most of the concerns or benefits would be 1 and 3. Again, like Councilmember Ray, let some of the interested parties kind of thrash through the details. I certainly support that. In terms of option 6, I think if we're going to be taking money in lieu of something, I think we should have a pretty good idea of what we're doing on that. To just take it with an undefined direction, I'm not sure that's the best option. So I'm kind of leaning away from that because there's really not a lot of, you know, a clear line of sight for what that money would be used for. But anyways, Mayor, that's a summary of my thoughts at this point.
Okay. Councilmember Daniels, do you want to jump in again, or did you speak your piece already?
No, I think that, just real quick, the primary entrance on Santan Boulevard, I think, is important. I don't know that 2 entrances on Santan Boulevard actually serves the need, particularly when we've just seen this type of situation on Greenfield, where there really was a dramatic impact to the neighborhoods there. I would like to see a crash gate or gated exit entrance, preferably just a crash gate actually at Flintlock, that would allow traffic in an emergency situation to be able to head south on 172nd, but I don't see a compelling reason to make 172nd a through street. If I do believe that somewhere in the area we need clear traffic right-of-ways, we need paved roadways in some areas, but I actually don't think 172nd, despite that it's on the half-mile marker, is really the best option for that. So that's my preference right now, Mayor, that we, as far as the cash in lieu, now if we make it a trail, we're now required to maintain the trail, and I don't know that we have the resources to be able to do that. That's just my only concern when it becomes a trail. It sounds like it's being used kind of as a trail, maybe just as it is, and maybe we allow that to just continue to occur. But the dedication may be an important aspect for future planning if we ever needed it. So.
Thank you. Councilmember Cooper?
Yeah, I think we do have a responsibility to look out to build out and beyond and understand as much as we can about all the access in the area. We need to act when we can, and this is one of those opportunities when we can act. That said, as I tried to argue in the Vestar case, I don't think this area is going to support a lot of traffic just in general. I don't think there's going to be a lot of density, and so I'm not convinced that we need that full roadway there as originally was approved. If I had to make a decision tonight, I would likely go with what Councilmember Daniels just said about the Flintlock, some sort of a gate there. Or, well, what I'll say is access. I'm not even going to say whether it's a crash gate or whether the developer would want to even, I'm open to gating that community, as they've talked about. But as they leave, if whatever comes out of Flintlock there, I think needs to be paved. I don't think it should be unpaved. I think that leaves maintenance issues and other things. And if there's a flood or something like that in that area, and then our emergency vehicles need to get in or out of there, I think that's just more challenging than having it paved or not having it paved. So yeah, having it paved. So I think it needs to be paved as it comes out of there, and then head south. Whether it's gated or not, I would kind of leave up to the applicant. I agree that street lights and sidewalks aren't necessary there. As far as going north from Flintlock up to Santan, I would actually right now lean toward the in lieu dollars, just as we look to the future and have a conversation about circulation in that area. I'd prefer to take that money as it may be needed.
Okay. And just quickly, a Lewis piece of feedback in 15 seconds or less. Let's see. So 20 years ago, I came to a council meeting and argued against a collector road by where I live. And it was still approved. And I'm glad it was, and I can see now the wisdom, but it's a very different situation. As I've looked at this, that barricade and the private street, this is very different. And I also agree with the residents with Payne Junior High there and no other collector streets. This would be major thoroughfare, and we need it from a town standpoint for many reasons, but at the same time, our residents have moved there for purposes of not having the street lights and the sidewalks and such. And so the summary of what I'm about to say from the 7, maybe back to Councilmember Daniels, that where we can give some direction, I'm hearing 7 council members say, let's not do a through street. And now I want to go to the town attorney, and then Amy can jump in too. If we did give that direction and then ask for our town staff, working with our town attorney, our applicant, and the residents, that gives some, I mean, that takes 6 alternatives really down to maybe 1 or 2. And Councilmember Peterson, I think you added a couple of thoughts too that might be considered. Is that enough help tonight where we would press the pause button and not give official approval based on what you said earlier, but at the same time take a discussion down to where it goes about like this, and we would leave it at this point without a decision? Help us.
Mayor, members of the council, I will defer some of this to Amy, but in general, the state general plan law and the statutes are provided such that requires towns and then voters who approve the general plan to set forth the plan to prevent changes or to make more challenging changes such as might be suggested here tonight, as of eliminating a collector street and changing it into something like a trail. So consequently, to do what you suggested requires a change in the general plan. It's not a major general plan amendment, as you were familiar with the Vestar matter with a two-thirds vote, but it is a minor general plan amendment which would have to happen first. Okay. The law is presently written, the statutes is presently written, essentially only gives you 3 options tonight, or 4 options. One would be to reverse the Planning Commission if the plat is inconsistent with the general plan, which it is not. The other would be to approve the plat outright. And the third would be to approve with conditions consistent with the general plan, but that's not the direction I see the council going. Consequently, the general plan will need to be amended, and this matter ought to be continued so that that can be accomplished before we come back and do what's the kind of things that are being suggested. Amy is perhaps better situated to say how long a general plan amendment takes.
Mayor, this question, or actually a comment. I don't believe my proposal, and may not have been completely understood, and it's just one of, it sounds like 7 varying proposals here. I don't believe mine requires a general plan amendment by any means, because all I'm saying is we don't build it now. We take money for a collector now, and all that gets worked out in the wash. We decide whether it should be a collector, and if so, or if not, then we do a general plan amendment. We work with the applicant and somehow in an agreement to get them their money back, or that kind of a thing. But all I'm saying is just don't build the road. I'm not saying to change the designation of what the road is.
Which I think, Councilmember Cooper, Amy, you would call it option 3?
And I'll just say it's not one of, I didn't really quite see it on here. It's building the road from Flintlock south with a gate or something up to the developer, and not building it to the north. And so it's kind of a hybrid of some options. And it's a for now option because we would be taking those funds while the rest of this works out.
And Amy, is that close to option 3, exactly 3, or quite different?
Mayor Lewis and Councilmember Cooper, I would say it's a 3B. Because it is a modification to that. It would be developing Flintlock as a collector, whether we do a minor collector, a major collector, a town collector, whichever collector you choose, it's still designated a collector. There would still be a 40-foot half-width dedicated going north from Flintlock. It would still be designated a collector under the general plan, whether we develop it or whether we take in lieu funds. If it is developed, let's say as a trail, and it's still dedicated, we could request that the HOA maintain that area for a point in time until a CIP does occur, or if we take in lieu payments and we do partial improvements that the HOA maintains, and then the remaining land that would be the street would just stay as dirt as it is today. But it would still be designated as a general plan of a collector road. So we do not feel that that would be outside of the parameters of what's allowed at this point in time. And we are open to the idea of gate at 172nd, whether it be a crash gate or whether it be an actuated gate. We are open to discussing also.
Mayor, members of the council, it is true, of course, that we can negotiate some type of arrangement where the designation remains the same as a collector road, but the money is held in escrow until such future time as that's needed, or refunded if it's not. And then, but of course that should be, an agreement should be entered into, or at least conceptually agreed upon, prior to any preliminary plat approval.
And to the council, just a really quick, and I'll even look for head nods or thumbs up or thumbs down. If we went that direction and did not ask for a general plan amendment, and there's dialogue about what would work, and maybe between now and the next meeting or the meeting after, does that work? Okay.
Mayor Lewis. Oh,
Councilmember Ray?
I think that's a fine idea. I think it's better to continue this, let these parties decide, and see if they want to do this or not.
We actually need to continue it regardless.
Yeah. Right.
Regardless, because we actually need the next 30 days to come up with a new preliminary plat, and also to have the town and the developer enter into a development agreement. So we will need to continue this for 30 days. I agree with you that we don't need a general plan amendment, but I would imagine that the residents would want some type of feeling and maybe a commitment, verbal commitment from us in a public meeting that says, we have the intention to look at this area in its entirety when it comes to the circulation. Right now, we don't have plans to build the remainder of 172nd based on this conversation, but there will be a public process in the coming years that would help us to identify whether or not that will be the plan moving forward, one in which they would be able to participate in.
Mayor, members of the council, if at some future time we decided not to build the collector road after having collected the money and then returned it, at that time a general plan amendment would be needed, because it still would be designated a collector road until such time as that's amended.
Okay. So, Councilmember Peterson?
Mayor, I guess, and I'm fine with that plan, but that's the part I'm not totally sure about either, because even if you don't collect the money for it, you can still keep it designated on your general plan. You can develop that different ways with different monies. You can use, sometimes there's grant dollars, sometimes there's general fund dollars, sometimes there's bond money. So I'm not sure why there's a connection there, as long as we leave it on the general plan as something that could happen in the future, a future collector road as it's currently designated. I'm not sure what the connection is there with the money. I'm not sure.
Without a
I follow that.
development agreement with the developer, between the town and the developer, we would never be able to collect the funds for it. And once we approve a preliminary plat, we're required by law essentially to comply with the preliminary plat. So as it looks today, we wouldn't be able to comply with the preliminary plat because it does have 172nd moving all the way through. So we need to amend that first.
I agree, but I've been told that could happen more administratively between preliminary and final for small tweaks like that. So, but it's fine. I do think it's still a better idea to give it another month to make sure we've had all the parties' input on the new thoughts that we've offered. I think that's wise. I agree with that.
And Amy, as far as continuing it, August 18th, September 11th, September 25th, when would you suggest that we continue this to?
Mayor Lewis, if you'd like to have revised preliminary plat drawings, I'm going to turn to the applicant. There you are. Mayor Lewis, the applicants indicated that it wouldn't take them very long to redo the drawings. However, they are also open to the idea that if we wanted to do a general plan amendment to take that off the books, that it could be noticed fairly quickly. However, staff's a little concerned that it wouldn't really give us a very much time to sort of look at the area in total and sort of study it a little more, which I know that has been discussed with some council members. So that is an option, but we would also be open to the idea of just having the applicant go ahead and redo the drawings to continue this to the 18th and August 18th and bring it back with the revised drawings for approval.
Okay. Well, we're still open public hearing, and I could close it.
We need a development agreement in addition to the plat, and I think that will take maybe a little bit longer. Mike, do you have a?
Mayor, members of the council, that's will probably not be done by the 18th.
So September 11th would be a more realistic date. Okay.
Mayor Lewis, some of the managers have indicated that since the agenda is already due and that even though the applicant could probably flip the drawings around fast enough, that may be a little soon to do it on the 18th, so September 11th would be a little more reasonable. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Peterson.
I think this might help. I think just to get a sense, because I don't want to have staff and the developer spend a lot of time on a development agreement if there's not 4 council members at least who favor the idea of collecting money up front. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's awkward and how long you decide to keep it. Just anyway, I'm not a fan of that. I'm hearing that council member Taylor's not, and I'm just wondering what the others think so that we don't spend time on something that most council members may not favor.
Troy, come to the microphone real fast. How do you, representing you as the applicant, you do have money in the plan set aside for this, and I think council members would appreciate hearing. How do you feel about the town taking money, keeping it for a set period of time? If it's not used, it would be refunded later. Because these are valid concerns. We want to be fair to you.
Sure. Mayor Lewis and fellow council members, as far as any payment in lieu, I think that does get very tricky, especially here, because I think what you're hearing from the public is, so payment in lieu is often done if you have a small section of street that doesn't make sense to do now, it makes sense to do as part of a bigger project, and you know that bigger project's coming in a year or 2 down the road. And so you would take that money if the plan was to build the road. What I'm hearing tonight from the public, and I think sentiment from the council as well, is that the odds of this road ever being there are very slim. So in that case, I think you really do create a sticky situation by trying to do something like that and have money, and because as properties develop and they change hands, then who pays the money, who gets the money back, what does the development agreement say? And I think it does complicate something that seems to be the majority, at least, of the discussion has been that this road never goes through. And so if the road never goes through, then why waste the time and energy and the staff resources and everything else to put this agreement together and then have the other legal complications that come in place with that? I mean, frankly, if the September 11th worked to work out whatever form of minor GPA needs to be worked out and tag that along with the preliminary plat, have that go through the Planning Commission the 1st of September, and then have this be on the next available council meeting after Planning Commission. I think you can kind of marry the two together, and then you get assurance from everybody, because if you do the payment in lieu, if you don't change the general plan, in essence, you are just kicking the can down the road. And I think everybody still thinks, well, okay, we kind of won tonight, but what happens 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now? Is this something we have to, continue to be worried about, disclose to buyers when properties are sold and all that type of thing? I think it would be more prudent to get some level of assurance for the public as part of this process.
Thank you. Amy, one more question. Do we have an estimate on what the dollar amount is?
Mayor Lewis, we don't have one. I just talking with Troy, probably we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, low hundreds of thousands of dollars possibly. But I think I guess I want to step up and just make one more, a couple things. And I've heard, that the road is never going to go through. I want to make sure that we plan and, the road, I think we're all in agreement. We've all said, I've talked with the neighbors, it's not needed now, but 174th and Recker and 176th, they all connect through. I don't think it was the county's intention to dead end 172nd where it ended. So I think I just want to make sure that we're planning as a town. I get to deal with a lot of county islands in the south part of Gilbert, and not having right-of-way for roads is one of the biggest issues that we deal with when our citizens that have now annexed in. So I just want to make sure and clear that we're at least making sure that we get at the right-of-way so that we can plan. We can do a plan and look at future dates. We can revisit the general plan, but I want to make sure that we're clear and we're not saying that, well, this roadway is never going to go in. I know it's an unpopular statement. I'm standing up here saying that, but I want to make sure that staff is clear on that from our perspective.
So to Councilmember Peterson's question, I think half the council, and I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure on that question. I want to be fair, but at the same time represent the town. Tonight, I'm just not sure.
Well, Mayor, if we don't know the dollars, we can't really we can't decide. So I think maybe as staff, potentially, as they go through the next 30 days, they might do some analysis for that to help.
That's probably a fair request to have more research on that. So I'm hearing a move to continue to September 11th. Amy?
There is some discussion with engineering that potentially, I believe it's September 25th is the date after that. That would give a little more time to work up some of those numbers and to do a little bit more detail, to also be able to provide those drawings to the neighbors so they can have a meeting and go over it and be in agreement with what is being shown, so that we come back to you in agreement as a single group.
Okay. So to the council, I'm about to close the public hearing on 27. Does that work? I close the public hearing on agenda item 27, and we'll entertain a motion to continue this to a certain date.
Mayor, I move that we continue this item till September 25th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just with the caveat of direction to staff to work on a development agreement and a new preliminary plat.
And to have the staff work with residents and the developer to come
Right.
to a conclusion that
Just
makes
want
sense.
to make sure that was all.
Thank you. All right, with that motion and second, please vote. That's approved with a 7 vote. Thank you. Thank you again for being here and great feedback. And we will now open the public hearing on agenda item 28. And I understand Vice Mayor Cook representing the question that was asked. And Nathan, this was, well, Vice Mayor Cook, please.
Well, do we want a presentation or?
I think we just want to ask the question.
Okay. So, Nate, we have 2 questions that we received, and this is the question that would like to be asked to the applicant. Answer why lack of buffer and similar lots adjacent to the existing large lots as designated in the Santan character area. That's the first question.
Mayor Lewis, Councilmember Cook. Yeah, I was aware of the question or so forth. I give you a little brief history. I mean, I'll let the applicant speak as well, but you know, we've gone through this quite a bit, and as the neighbor mentioned, this is part of the Santan character area. Let me give you a little history, though, because I think that'll maybe answer.
And I think they were thinking about, you know, as we saw the kind of the preliminary design, the lots in the property look much smaller compared to the adjacent ones, I guess.
Yeah, right. That's true. So what we have here is not a general plan amendment. I'll point that out immediately. The general plan designation is 1 to 2 dwelling units an acre, and they're at 2 dwelling units an acre now. The zoning is SF 35 PAD as of right now, as you can see from the aerial. Surrounding lots are larger lots, County Island mostly. Those areas that aren't in color are County Island. And you can see to the south there's a large horse property and a vacant lot, and 3 lots that side onto this parcel, this 45 acres. There's a 1 to 2 dwelling units an acre to the north, which you'll see in the next couple months coming forth, and then the RWCD canal to the east of the subject site. So a little history on it is back in 2006 it was annexed, and in 2000, subsequently early 2007 it was rezoned. There was a general plan amendment from 0 to 1 to 1 to 2, but they rezoned it to town zoning, from county zoning to town zoning to SF 15 PAD, and this is the PAD that was approved back in 07. Again, Santan character area existed at this time, and everything is similar to what it is now. You can see there's 65 lots here. Dwelling units per acre was about 1.5. So what they have, and then after that, back in 2012, there was a rezone to SF 35 PAD. This is this happened for a congregate living facility. This is the same owner that's owned this property for this, this time period. And this user went away, so now the owner wants to come back and essentially do what they originally had intended, which was called Val Vista, Reserves of Val Vista 2, I believe. And in our opinion, this is a bit of an upgrade from what that was. Those are larger lots, about 20,000 square feet in area, and there are only 65 of them. There's 90 in here, and these lots are around 12,000 to 12,600 square feet in area each. So they're smaller dimensionally in an area, but there's a few more of them, but we think the site's a little more integrated and actually buffers the surrounding properties better than it did in the original approval. As you can see here, there's some buffering on the north property line. There's a 20-foot landscape buffer that the applicant is providing on the site. There's also an RWCD easement that's 40 feet wide along there. On the south property line, there's a 30-foot wide access drive that is used by the horse property, the equestrian parcels, as well as the vacant parcels to here in the lower left. So And you can see there's more openings and integration with the surrounding property owners. There's more use of trails. There's a significant use of trail. There's a trail all the way along the northern property boundary. There's more openings. It's not so closed off to the properties to the south and to the north. So in staff's opinion, as well as the applicants, we feel this is a better integration. I'll point out that there's a secondary access point here in the northeast corner of the property, which will connect to a future development. Originally, this was phase Valvista, reserves of Valvista 1 and 2, and that was the one part of it to the north here, which is now called Puri Farms. That's coming back separately in a few months. But it was meant to be integrated, and then this will connect through that Puri Farms and take us all the way to the north up 156th Street to Riggs. So, summary, rambling here, I guess, but feel like it's a little bit better of a PAD than it was originally, and it's getting back to what it was originally approved for. So, in staff's opinion, we do not agree with that analysis of that it needs 35,000 square foot lots to buffer these large lots. We don't agree with that at all. In fact, I've taken the liberty of providing some of the Santan character area goals and policies myself, encouraging low density project with a mix of open space and agriculture. We believe that 1 to 2 dwelling units an acre is low density, which is what this is. Again, not a general plan amendment, just a rezoning. Using open space as a buffer for residential development and public facilities, which this has both. Utilizing distance separation, walls, landscaping, and streets to buffer dissimilar uses. That's exactly what we have here. Utilizing canals, desert washes, and roadway buffers as part of a trail system. All of these are right out of the Santan character area, and all of these are met with this proposal. So,
did the applicant also want to answer that question? Or did that answer it?
He seems okay with that answer.
Okay. So to the council, any discussion that you'd like to have before I would close the public hearing?
We do have one more question from the...
Please.
The second question, Nate, were there a need to be where you raise the grading to meet the required sewer slope? There has been an issue several times, I guess in the past, and they were referencing the Toll Brothers flood control plan.
Mayor Lewis, Councilmember Cook, I'll let the applicant touch on that. He's very thoroughly advised on this.
Mayor Lewis, council members. For the record, my name is Drew Huseth. I'm with EPS Group. Our address is 2045 South Vineyard, Suite 101, Mesa, Arizona 85210. In regards to that question, at this point in time, it's a little too early to evaluate finished grade levels for this subdivision. At the appropriate time during the CD construction, we'll work with our engineers to ensure that appropriate grades are met to meet all town sewer and water requirements. So.
Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful for the record. Anything else? I close the public hearing on agenda item 28 and will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve agenda item 28.
Is there a second?
Second.
Here with that motion, second, please vote. That's approved with the 7-0 vote. Thank you. We will move to the 2 policy items and then come back to 33. So agenda item 34, consider the approval of, let's see, this is the rental of town property by private entities. To the council, do we have a desire for some discussion on policy tied to agenda item 34? Are we ready for a motion? Councilmember Peterson, you ready to do a motion?
Move to approve the policy as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
With that motion, second, please vote. That's approved with the 7-0 vote. Policy tied to agenda item number 36 regarding our utility billing advertising, which I think was a summary of the direction that we gave, and so I would assume that I could entertain a motion at this point.
Mayor, I move to approve item
Second?
37, excuse me.
Second?
36.
36. Is there a second?
Second? Second.
Okay, you've already second. Should I just say, please vote?
Yes.
Please vote. That's approved with a 7-0 vote. Thank you. We go back to agenda item 33, report on boards and commissions. Okay. Then we move to 37, future meetings. I think on the future meetings, Ken, Nicole, Mike, Councilmember Taylor, if you could please stand. If you're here, so there's Ken. Nicole stepped out. Okay, very good. This is just for our citizens to know. Oh, keep standing just long enough for me to finish the statement. We are about to have our annual retreat next week, and we probably have 30+ very important strategic items, and it'll be a great retreat. And for those who are into the details of planning for it, thank you. But there's one part in the retreat that involves 5 teams getting together, and I just wanted those standing to know that I am proud to be on your team, and we will be competitive, and this is the team to beat. Thank you. You may be seated. Agenda item 39. I should probably skip with that last one, but a report from town manager on current events.
We should have skipped, Mayor, members.
Do you want to tell us who's on your team?
I'd just like to say that our team that will be finishing first, consisting of Kathy Templeton, Carrie Bosley, Andy Welsh, and Lynn Rue, will be victorious next Friday night. If you'll recall that Carrie was on your team last year, Mayor. She has your total playbook. She's told us all of your tricks, and we will be prepared to bring home the victory.
Thank you. Anything else on agenda item 39?
Yeah, on a more serious note, I wanted to recognize several categories and individuals of employees who over the last month have done some exemplary work for the town and our citizens. First, from our storm event we had a couple weeks ago, that we had several microbursts in town that were quite strong and violent. It put a large burden on our solid waste bulky item pickups. And to give you some perspective on what our crews dealt with, in July of 2014, they took in 1,355 tons of bulky item, much of that consisting of downed trees and limbs. Contrast that with July of 2013, where they only brought in 517 tons. And that was just in 2 specific areas, Area B and Area C, as they've gotten our community broken down. So a lot of additional work on their parts, and they did an exemplary job with that. Also, our police personnel participated with 5 other agencies on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, served a total of 6 warrants with Gilbert, Chandler, Mesa, Phoenix, and Tempe's police departments. 3 of those warrants were served in Gilbert, 2 in Phoenix, and 1 in Chandler. In total, they brought in 2.75 pounds of heroin, 4.4 pounds of cocaine, 1.25 pounds of methamphetamines, 636 pounds of regular marijuana, and 2.8 pounds of high-grade marijuana, with no injuries on either side. They did an exemplary job with that. That was a huge effort and coordination by our men. Gilbert Fire and Rescue also supported that effort, and it went off very well.
I think from a council perspective, I know, yeah, I just think, thank you.
And then lastly, we had the annual summer conference for the Arizona City Managers Association Conference, and we had several members of our team down there presenting to Arizona cities and towns, the managers and some of the respective staff on some of the great things we're doing here in Gilbert. Jennifer Alvarez and Alfredo Moreno gave a presentation on the Spark App League. Mary Vincent in the Office of Management and Budget gave a presentation on performance benchmarks. And Lisa Maxwell in the town's clerk's office gave a presentation on proper records management. So that was great recognition for our town and some of the policies and the programs we've got in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 40, report from council members. Councilmember Taylor.
Mayor, I don't know if you're going to discuss the elections, but just encourage everybody to get out and exercise their right to vote. This is a great opportunity. It's part of our American fabric, and it's important that everybody exercise that right. Very important to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually wasn't going to mention, I was going to mention something about baseball, but I think for sake of time, to the council members, welcome back, and to town staff, thank you. It was a good break, and we look forward to a lot at the retreat that we'll be doing, and looking ahead to the future. And so with that, meeting adjourned.